So, top of the morning to you ladies. My name's eRentalman Buck. Welcome to our part 1 of the John Deere 56 restoration, where today is going to be more or less a cleanup day, possibly a little bit of a fixing day, give or take what we're going to be doing. This will be the first time I've actually pulled the mower out of my storage unit in the first time, probably about a year. But we're on our way down to the storage unit right now. I think that was my flashlight in my pocket, but not too far of a drive. It's actually like maybe 2 minutes for me when it comes to actually going from my apartment to the storage unit. So we'll get the mower out, we'll take a look at what we're going to end up doing. I got most of the parts that we're going to be putting on today behind me, so hopefully you guys enjoy the video, and let's get to looking at this mower. Now beforehand I actually had a ramp that was underneath this thing that held it out, but like this is my clutch right here, and the spring completely broke on that one when I was kind of moving it around before I put it in here last. So we're going to have to replace this spring. I'm going to put the front tires back on. Now these, like I said, there was a ramp underneath here, so it would have made it a little bit easier to get the tires off of it or put them on, but we don't have that now. So we're going to have to lift this thing up and put the tires on it just so we can get this thing out of here in the sunlight and we can do a full walk around. So let's take care of that part first, since that's the most important. Tell you what, this thing was always a real bugger to get out because of the fact that it was just ever so slightly wider than the door. So first and foremost, here is the mower and everything that it stands for. I mean, yeah, sure, it's a little rough. It's got obviously a lot of dirt, cracks and whatnot, but once we actually pop open the hood here, after I let it go into that, put it in gear, set this down on the floor because I'm intelligent. Once we open up the cover, this mower came factory with a 6 horsepower Tecumseh. Mine, however, actually has the slightly newer model of a 7 horsepower Tecumseh on it. Got our nice actual original date plate on here. And the transmission and all this wiring, I ended up redoing a majority of this wiring back here last summer. So I have a new ignition wire that came through, a few of these transmission wires. I ended up redoing all the fittings on them. And down here, this little spring right here, that is the one that I needed to replace because that is controlled by this right here. So I don't have this control for the throttle and the choke and idle run because this was the wrong screw. Now I also have the air filter sitting in the unit right now I have to get out. But I got a new filter for that, as well as the cap, which is original. I've already cleaned out this carburetor, but it just needs to be washed because that's just a lot of, that's 50 however many year olds grease, dirt, and debris. These tires are flat, which is why I also have 2 brand new tires that I was going to install. Now these ones I can do myself because they're big enough, they're stretchy enough, I can do whatever. But I also have the valve stems and all the other stuff that I'm going to need. So we'll break open these quick and I'll show you guys what these are inside of here, for being the hitch and then the springs. So before anyone asks, sadly no, I did not get this stuff from Marty at Prairie State. I got it from a local dealer around here. It's also not Platte Valley. I got it from a dealer called Acres. These guys are probably one of the bigger dealers in the state of Nebraska, but parts were right. I was up in the area, so I ran through there, stopped by, talked to a very nice gentleman named Bill, and he helped me out and get everything set up. So this is our hitch bracket that we got. It is off of a, like I said, a Z-Track mower. This goes on the back of a regular commercial one, a regular residential mower. It's not like the big heavy fancy ones, but we tend to drop things a lot around here too. But this, once I can get myself a drill, well, I have the drill. What I'll do with that is down here on the back side of the frame, I will bolt that right in the middle, like measuring it out wise, and I'll bolt that to the frame so that way I can have a nice little hitch. Now in our other corner, we have this mighty bag of springs. So these springs are what helps tension. Because underneath here right now, these are all rusted out so badly that one of them just snapped when I was pushing in the clutch. So they all need replaced, and luckily Deere still makes these. So we're gonna get these installed, as well as get that snap ring on the wheel so we can actually, like, you know, try and move this thing. So this little guy is supposed to go right in this loop. Just kind of gotta more or less spin it. It's a little bit better of an angle to work on it. Just kind of, there we go. So spin it in. There's one connection. Let's go down here. And there we go. Now, for anyone asking why on earth am I replacing tires when these things still hold air, well, for one, you can see the dry rod's out the rear end, and two, the dry rod is way out of the rear end. I mean, look at that. You gotta, I think that's safe. That's safe, isn't it? I mean, you're supposed to be able to do that. You okay? You all right, bud? So one thing I did beforehand, I can't remember exactly where I got these, but I love these tiny little, like, pliers. But one thing I did is I disconnected my electrical for the ignition, just because I don't really want to have to remake that wire again. But all I do, get under here, pull it up, a little bit of elbow grease, there you go. And the deck spring is off. Now that looks a little bit crusty if you don't ask me. Well, if you ask me, it looks crusty. But in the words of a very good automotive YouTuber by the name of, oh, I don't know, Chris Fix, out with the old and in with the new. So that looks a little bit better, a lot less crusty. Obviously a different color, but that one's also been stretched out a bit. I've already been playing around with it, so it's already been pre-loosened. We'll just kind of put that down on the bottom loop, wherever the heck my pliers went, right here. And I would try and grab this with my hand, and I technically did. It just kind of like, really, you can't get it over the loop. So just pull that, give it a little bit of encouragement. There we go. Now we got ourselves a new belt tension spring. So let's move on to the fun ones down at the brake and the clutch, since one of them's already broken. So now we have the mower up off the ground, but what I want to do is I'm actually going to try to take off the deck. Now that shouldn't be too big of a problem, as it's just, by the looks of it, this pin here, another pin on the opposite side, and then that pin right there. And what it should do is I already have all these belts, and then this little guy right here, and the deck should drop, go on the ground, and then I can get underneath this thing and really get an idea of where these springs are, how to get to them, and it'll probably be a lot easier to replace them. So let's get this deck off. So a quick little rundown, now that we're finally underneath the mower here. This is our clutch pulley. So this is the spring that was the one that was broken. We got to run that spring, which looks like this. This guy, we have to run this one up to this little guy right here. We need to loop this around, just like this. And we got to run this back to that. I have a very good feeling that once this actually connects, there will be bloodshed. Something's gonna break. Put on my safety script goggles. Not too bad. And now, we have a very sturdy clutch pedal. Now it's time to do the brake one.
2 hours later.
So I finally got the thing. It ended up going right back where it was. I'm not messing with it anymore. It's in, it's good to go. Now I just got to pull it back. And this one shouldn't be too hard because this is actually, I figured it out. It's not the brake spring. It is actually the deck engager spring. So the spring to the PTO turn on and off right on the side of the steering column. That's what this is too. This is the tensioner for that. So I can find my pliers. I should be able to just pull this back without getting stuff in my eye and loop it around here quick. Might expect to do this one by hand. There we go. And without breaking my fingies, that should be good to go. So we got all of our springs that I have pretty much wanting to replace right now. They have been replaced. So let's put a little bit of fuel in this thing, kind of look at the carburetor, see if I need to tune anything up, and let's get this mower running and down to the car wash. Now I know from experience that this thing, it's electrical for the key starter, doesn't work exactly. We'll just take a little bit of this, which I hate this nozzle. There's actually one nozzle when I worked out at the state park I did enjoy for the no spill. This one's just a joke. That should be good because I ended up replacing my fuel line underneath here for, I mean, it's just literally, it's like this long of a tube for the fuel line. It goes straight into the carburetor, and I do not see any leaks now. Of course, like I said, the air filter is supposed to go right here. I actually have to go and get two little bolts for it, so I can bolt that back on. So before I wash it, I'll at least find a way to fasten it on, so I'm not spraying water directly into the carb. But we got some gas in it. I already checked oil. We do have oil in it. So let's turn the key and let's see if we can't get this thing started. Well, we have life. Well, she ran for a little bit. I'm gonna take off the carburetor, clean that out, and we'll try it again. So as for right now, it is not wanting to start. I have compression, I've checked the oil. The oil's a little low, which is not surprising. It's been sitting for a year and a quarter or so. But I'm gonna take off the top of the engine cover again here, take off the shroud. I tried putting a little bit of starter fluid inside the combustion chamber right where the spark plug is, and all it did was just get one puff of white smoke. So something's not firing right. I'm gonna check my points underneath the flywheel again and see whether or not something's not getting spark, because we have compression, we have fuel, because you can't really mess up the fuel in this thing. It's just literally, like I said, a little tiny straight pipe going right down. So that leaves me to spark. So we're gonna take this off, we're gonna check our points, and we'll figure that out as we go. Or it's kind of maybe with the between the flathead, just kind of give that a little bit of a scrape up. I believe I know where our problem is. That's not good. So now, again, besides the wind, because I can never control that around here in windy Nebraska, we have our heat shrink tube, our crimper connector, our lighter, because you know what, we nailed it, and some skizzers, because what we need to do is we do not need this whole tube. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip a little bit off here. Yay. Keep this here, put this on top of this. Well, I just slide this onto here right now. So put this right here and this right here. Very nice. And we crump them together. Basically take this, squeeze it really hard, this side, There you go, just like that. With the tug test, that's good. Put this over the top, and if I can do this by scooting back and doing it down here, this should heat shrink. Okay, this is gonna be fun. And there you go. Now it's probably a little bit tacky and a little bit warm, but in essence, we'll let that kind of like settle itself down, and then we'll run back to the mower and reattach this. And in theory, the mower now should start. So one thing I wanted to try, just to make sure now we actually do have spark, it's kind of dark enough that I can do this, but I have this spark plug tester that I got from my buddy, and I just want to see whether or not this actually does work, because, you know, it doesn't hurt to try. But plug this one end in, top of the spark plug. You take this end, you put the spark plug tip inside of that. So now, if we have spark, there is a light bulb in here that should, in theory, light up to where I can see the spark. Well, we ran into some issues. It is now day 2. It is currently raining right now. I'm on my way into town because when I tried to start the mower, after I fixed the capacitor, I decided to look into the fact that I had a massive oil leak on the crankcase housing. The gasket on the outside of that had a chunk that was completely missing out of there, so any oil that I was putting in slowly like started to seep out. So even if I did get the motor running, it did not look like it was going to be lasting very long without some motor oil. So what I'm going to go do is I'm going to go get me some of that high temp RTV stuff, and I could technically buy a gasket for it because they do still make them, but I'd have to wait like 4 or 5 days to get that, and with my schedule, at least for right now, I'd want to just try and get it. Plus that RTV, usually you put that around with the gasket to help seal it more, so we're going to pick some of that stuff up. I'm also going to look for some parts on the electrical system, a new capacitor, possibly, if anyone has it, a coil. I highly doubt that, but never hurts to try. So we're going to head into Lincoln, get ourselves some parts, and then we'll be back on our way to working on the motor, which we'll get to that section since I did take that off the back of the mower. So we'll see you guys in a bit. So after a quick parts run in town, we stopped at Harbor Freight, Home Depot, Ace Hardware, and then a small engine place, which actually was a Tecumseh dealer. Just obviously it would be remanufactured parts, or you have some OEMs that are laying around. We ordered the majority of the parts we're going to need. We got a new condenser, we got a new coil magneto, in essence the big black circle part that goes to the spark plug, cable wise, whatever, runs off the magnet. We have that. We did technically order a crankcase gasket, but I actually, when I went to AutoZone as well, I got some high temp RTV gasket makers, so I'm probably also going to use that instead if I want to do it, since it's a quick fix. But that also means I can fill it with oil, I can get the motor running, and I can actually see, and then if I want to, I'll pull the thing apart, scrape it all off the crank, put on the new gasket when that comes in as well with the other parts, and then reseal it all back up, put some more RTV on there, just a little bit, not a lot, but we'll seal that all back up and we should be set. So let's get back to the house. I'm going to go grab the motor down at the storage unit, and we're going to tear that thing apart and start working on it and getting it ready to start running again if we attach it back to the mower. So now that we are back at the apartment, what we have is our shroud here, fuel tank, air filter, which that's what I was talking to you guys. Like, I already had a new filter, I already had that. Got some new screws to fasten that down. This is our plate that holds on top of the flywheel. So it's kind of, I'd almost say like a dust guard. But we have our points, like our electro crud coil right there, magnets, condenser, which I thought it was a capacitor. It's a capacitor, condenser, whatever. That's what we're going to be getting new of, as well as this coil right here. And then inside of this is our points, which, like I said, it's already brand new stuff, so we don't need to worry about that. Flywheel, and this is the flywheel where the recoil gets pulled around in. So that's all of that. there is our gasket maker, our new bolts for some fasteners of like, not like this bolt, but for some other stuff. And then there's our carburetor, which is already cleaned out. So now we have this to work on. And what we're going to use that gasket maker for is right here. This, where it's supposed to be a gasket. I'm going to put that on here and seal up our crankcase. So let's get to it.
Man, I always had stories about the city life and the crazy nights. Figure I should probably give it a try. Maybe check it out, see what it's all about. But the traffic was fast and the money was slow. The people I met you never get to know. I kinda miss this place I used to live back home. 'Cause up here it's breakneck, paycheck, rat race, what's next? I'm tired of feeling like a small fish in a big pond. I think I'll go back where I came from, where everybody knows my name. My friends are still the same. I guess the slow life hit me just right, like a bonfire on a cold night. Hell, and you can keep your 9 to 5, happy with the simple life.
Now here's the thing about this stuff. I don't want to put too thick of a bead on here because I've actually already wire brushed this thing down, cleaned it off. This is a very even surface. This is not a very thick gasket, so I mean that's the old part of it. I mean, it's not very thick, but it's also relatively thin. You don't want to put too much on here, so this is not exactly what you're supposed to be using, but this set of pliers, vice grips, actually you can cut the end off here, so let's just do that. Oh, maybe I gotta tighten it down a little bit more to actually cut through. Hang on. There we go. Now there that is. It's not the most beautiful thing on planet Earth. I might put a little bit more in certain areas that look a little bit exposed, but in a general standpoint that looks really good, at least for my first time putting this stuff on. So we're going to let this sit for about 2 to 3 minutes to kind of get tacky, and then we're going to put this one on top of it. And I'm going to let that sit for about an hour, and then we'll be able to cinch everything back up. If we really wanted to, put some oil in it and try and fire this thing back up. So our motor now has been sitting for about, how we say, an hour and a half or so. So our actual gasket compound here has thickened up rather nice. When I tap it, it doesn't really come back up on my fingers. So what we'll do now is we will torque these down. Well, not necessarily torque them, but we'll tighten them down to real snug. And we can technically fill this thing up with oil. I've actually decided that what I'll be doing for right now is if I end up finding that I have any oil leaks, I'll then take this back apart when I have that gasket for all of our electrical components. And then we will redo that, put some more RTB on there, and we'll have this thing sealed up nice. But I think what we did should have sealed it up just fine. But we're going to tighten these down, make sure this is real nice and snug. We can put oil back in it, and we can start piecing our motor back together. And all which ways this will actually get done at some point. So let's at least get the things that we know we can do done right now. right now we have the motor completely pieced back together. It's starting to kind of drizzle a little bit here. I mean, it has been on and off all day, but I kind of was able to do this while it wasn't raining yet. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to take the mower tomorrow, because right now it's Friday. I'm going to take the mower base motor body to the car wash tomorrow if it's not raining again. And we'll clean off that, and that should be the end of probably part 1. I don't know how many parts this will be, but however many it takes to get this mower actually done. But once we can get all the parts put back together, I'm going to wait for those to come in. I think they said midweek or so, Wednesday. We could probably work on this a little bit next weekend, and then we can really get the mower running. What I want to do is let the gasket maker absolutely cure and fully seal and rubberize, so when we put motor oil in it, we can actually see and test whether or not there's going to be leaks, and we don't have to worry about anything. And then the electrical components should be here, so we should really be able to test whether or not this motor is actually good and it runs. I'm pretty sure this motor is solid. We're going to be able to get it to work, but why on earth test it right now when we know there's not a whole lot that's going for us in our way? So we'll see you guys tomorrow to end out the part by cleaning off the mower and getting a nice good look at it. So now we are back on day 3. It is currently Saturday morning. We're going to be getting the mower, the frame, out of the unit again, and we're gonna roll it about half a mile or a quarter mile, however far it is, down to the car wash, and we're gonna get the thing all nice and cleaned up. Let's just start with the easy part and get the mower out and get it washed off. Well, we made it in one piece. Let's get this thing washed up, hopefully. I'm kind of out of breath. Going to do it for part 1 of our little mower restoration. I don't even know if you can call it that, my attempt at fixing this thing. But the next video will more than likely be getting that engine running and getting it working more reliably, as I do want to actually put some time into getting the motor running first. Because if we get the motor running, then we can clean up the deck, then we can start doing it. But there's no use in making it look really, really nice if we can't even get the thing to run first. So next time we'll be getting a lot more into the engine, and we'll probably have a little bit more knowledge on how to do stuff like that. But hope you guys enjoyed part 1 here. So if you haven't already, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe down below. Also be sure to check out the Boomstick Club for all the up-to-date content from me and the gang. You already know who is in it. We're on that race to the 100K, so help a guy out. We'll see you in the next one. Reynolds, man, out.